Admiral Zexler stood on the bridge of his massive command ship and watched 50,000 warships spread across the star system. The sight filled him with pride. Never before had the galaxy seen such a mighty fleet. Ships from 12 different worlds floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of twin suns. The Admiral's 4 eyes scanned the displays showing ship positions. Kethran destroyers held the center lines with their heavy plasma cannons. Vorthan cruisers moved along the edges with their deadly missile systems. The insect-like Zilani brought their hive ships packed with fighter craft. Each species had sent their best vessels and most skilled warriors. "Sir, the final count is complete," reported Commander Veltar, his second-in-command. 53,412 ships ready for battle. Zexler nodded his scaled head. 300 years of preparation. The humans will not expect this. The planning had started long ago when the first reports came back from the Outer Rim. A new species had appeared on the far side of the galaxy. They called themselves humans. The early scouts said they were nothing special. Bipedal creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. They used basic metal ships and simple energy weapons. Most importantly, they seemed to fight among themselves constantly, but the humans kept expanding. System after system fell under their control. They built colonies and space stations wherever they went. The Kethran Council decided that these humans would eventually reach their territory. When that happened, they wanted to be ready. The Admiral walked to the central display table. A 3-dimensional map showed the current positions of all ships. Red dots marked human territory, now only 30 light-years away. Intelligence reports said the humans had around 5,000 ships total. Most were small patrol vessels and cargo haulers. Their largest warships were barely half the size of a Kethran destroyer. "The humans use kinetic weapons," Zexler said to his officers, "metal projectiles fired at high speed. Our energy shields will stop anything they can throw at us." The other commanders around the table agreed. Sub-Admiral Vexron from the Vorthan fleet spoke up. "Their missiles are chemical-based primitive technology. Our point defense systems can destroy them long before they reach us." "What about their numbers?" asked Captain Zillaneth of the Zilani forces. Her insect-like mandibles clicked as she spoke. "The reports say they reproduce quickly." Zexler waved a clawed hand. "Numbers mean nothing without proper technology. One of our ships can destroy 10 of theirs. We have the advantage in every way that matters." The meeting continued for another hour. Battle plans were reviewed one final time. The fleet would spread across multiple star systems to prevent the humans from escaping. When the human ships appeared, they would be surrounded and destroyed quickly. It would send a clear message to any other species thinking about expanding into Kethran space. Later that day, Zexler stood alone in his private quarters. Through the large window, he could see the endless rows of warships. Each one represented the finest military technology their civilization could produce. Energy weapons that could melt through solid metal. Shields that could deflect the blast from a small star. Computer systems that could calculate 1,000,000 different battle scenarios in seconds. The humans had none of these advantages. Their ships were made of simple alloys. Their weapons were based on explosive chemicals and metal slugs. Their computers were so slow that biological pilots had to make most decisions manually. In every simulation the Kethran had run, the humans lost within hours. A soft chime announced an incoming message. The Admiral activated his communication system and saw the face of High Commander Korthik from the homeworld. "Admiral, our scouts report movement in human space. A fleet is gathering near their border systems." Zexler felt his heart beat faster. "How many ships?" "Approximately 2,000 vessels." "Much smaller than expected." "They appear to be moving toward the neutral zone." The Admiral smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Excellent, they are coming to us." "How long until they reach our territory?" "Based on their current speed, roughly 6 standard days. Perfect timing. The fleet was ready. Every ship had been supplied and armed. The crews had trained for months in combined operations. The humans would fly directly into the largest military trap in galactic history. Over the next few days, activity increased throughout the fleet. Final weapons checks were completed. Shield generators were tested one more time. Fighter pilots ran practice missions between the larger ships. Everyone knew that the coming battle would be remembered for centuries. The admiral spent his time reviewing intelligence reports about human tactics. They seemed to prefer direct assaults with little clever strategy. Their ships would charge forward in loose formations, firing everything they had. No subtlety or advanced planning. It made sense for a species that had only been traveling between stars for a few decades. On the fifth day, long-range sensors detected the approaching human fleet. Zexler called his senior commanders to the bridge to watch the displays. 2,000 ships moved steadily toward Kethrin space. They maintained a simple formation with the larger vessels in front and smaller ones behind. Just as the reports described, said Commander Veltar. Basic tactics from a primitive species. The human ships looked exactly like the intelligence. Files showed gray metal hulls with simple designs. No elegant curves or artistic flourishes like proper warships should have. They looked more like cargo containers with engines attached. Some of the larger vessels had visible weapon mounts on their hulls, crude but functional. Sir, should we move to intercept them? Asked Sub-Admiral Dextrin. Zexler considered the question. The original plan called for letting the humans enter Kethrin space before attacking. That would make their defeat more complete and send a stronger message. But part of him wanted to end this quickly. No, we stick to the plan. Let them come to us. When they cross into our territory, we will show them the power of the Kethrin hegemony. The bridge crew returned to their stations. Final preparations began across the fleet. In less than 24 hours, the largest space battle in galactic history would begin. 53,000 ships against 2,000. The most advanced military technology against primitive weapons and armor. Zexler felt confident about the outcome. The humans had courage to challenge them, but courage alone would not be enough. Soon the galaxy would know that the Kethrin hegemony was not to be threatened. Other expanding species would think twice before approaching their borders. The admiral looked out at his magnificent fleet one more time. Tomorrow, these ships would write their names in the history books. The humans had no idea what was waiting for them. They probably thought their small fleet could intimidate the Kethrin into backing down. They would learn otherwise very soon. Everything was ready. The trap was set. The humans were coming straight into it. Nothing could go wrong now. The human fleet stopped at the edge of Kethrin space. Admiral Zexler watched the tactical display with growing confusion. The 2,000 human ships had formed a wide line across 3 star systems. They floated there without moving forward or backward. No aggressive positioning. No obvious battle formation. Sir, they have stopped, reported Commander Veltar. All human vessels are holding position just outside our territorial boundary. Zexler studied the display. This was not what the intelligence reports had predicted. Humans were supposed to be hot-headed and impatient. They should have charged straight into Kethrin space by now. Are they scanning us? The Admiral asked. Unknown, sir. Our sensors detect no active scanning beams from their ships. Strange. How could they plan an attack without gathering information about enemy positions? Unless they already knew where the Kethrin fleet was located, but that seemed impossible. The fleet had maintained communication silence for the past week. Hours passed with no movement from either side. The Admiral grew more frustrated. His magnificent fleet was ready for battle, but the humans refused to enter the trap. Some of his commanders suggested moving forward to attack, but Zexler wanted to stick to the original plan. Then, something unexpected happened. A single human ship separated from their main fleet. It was smaller than the others, roughly the size of a Kethrin patrol vessel. The ship moved slowly toward the territorial boundary, transmitting on standard diplomatic frequencies. Sir, we are receiving a communication request from the approaching vessel, announced the communications officer. The Admiral felt his scales bristle with annoyance. typical human behavior. They want to negotiate after bringing a military fleet to our borders. Should we respond, sir? Zexter considered ignoring the message, but curiosity got the better of him. He wanted to hear what these primitive beings had to say before crushing them. Put them on the main screen. The display flickered and showed the interior of the human ship. A female human sat in what appeared to be their command chair. She had dark hair and wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. Behind her, other humans worked at control stations that looked crude compared to Kethran technology. "Greetings," the human said in perfect Kethran language. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. I request permission to enter your space for formal negotiations." The Admiral felt surprised. Her pronunciation was flawless. Most aliens needed translation devices to speak Kethran properly. How had she learned their language so well? "I am Admiral Zexter of the Kethran hegemony," he replied. "You bring warships to our borders and then speak of diplomacy. Explain your intentions." Captain Vasquez smiled. "We come seeking peaceful resolution to territorial disputes. Our governments wish to establish formal boundaries and trade agreements. Your fleet suggests otherwise. Our fleet is a precautionary measure. We have learned that 63,412 Kethran vessels are currently positioned throughout this sector. We brought adequate forces to defend ourselves if negotiations fail." Zexter felt his blood run cold. The human had given the exact number of ships in his fleet. How could she know that? The official count was 53,000. She had included the support vessels and supply ships that were supposed to be hidden in the outer system. "You seem well informed," the Admiral said carefully. "We try to be thorough. For example, Admiral, I know that you graduated first in your class from the Kethran Naval Academy 42 years ago. Your service record shows exceptional tactical planning skills, particularly during the Vorthan border conflicts. You received the Star of Valor for your actions at the Battle of Hendrix Station." The Admiral's four eyes widened in shock. That information was classified military data? Even most of his own officers did not know those details about his past. "We also know that Sub-Admiral Thexrong commands the Vorthan contingent from his flagship, Eternal Storm. Captain Zilaneth leads the Zilani forces aboard the hive ship Queen's Wrath. Commander Veltar served as your executive officer during the pirate suppression campaign 8 years ago." With each word, Zexter felt more disturbed. The human woman was reciting personal information about his senior staff as if she was reading from their official files. "How do you know these things?" he demanded. "We have been monitoring your communications networks for approximately 15 years, Captain Vasquez replied calmly. "Your quantum encryption protocols have some interesting vulnerabilities. We found them quite educational." The Admiral felt panic rising in his chest. If the humans had been listening to their communications, they knew everything. Battle plans, ship positions, weapon capabilities, even personal conversations between officers. "We prefer peaceful solutions," the captain continued. "However, we understand that military minds often require demonstrations of capability before considering diplomatic alternatives. Would you like us to provide such a demonstration?" "What kind of demonstration?" Zexter asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. "We could show you how thoroughly we have penetrated your computer networks. For instance, we currently have access to your navigation systems, weapon controls, and life support functions. We could make small adjustments to prove our point." The Admiral looked at his officers. They all appeared confused and worried. "Commander." Veltar was checking his control panel with obvious concern. "Sir," Veltar whispered, "I am detecting unauthorized access attempts in our computer core." "Block them," Zexter ordered. "I am trying, sir. The intrusion protocols are unlike anything I have seen before." On the main screen, Captain Vasquez nodded sympathetically. "Your cybersecurity is quite good by galactic standards. It took our computers almost 3 minutes to bypass your firewalls." Suddenly, every light on the bridge flickered. The artificial gravity fluctuated for a moment. Several control panels displayed error messages before returning to normal. That was just a gentle probe, the captain explained. We wanted to avoid causing any permanent damage during negotiations. Zexler realized his situation had changed completely. The humans were not primitive warriors charging blindly into battle. They were something far more dangerous. They had been watching and preparing for years. They knew everything about the Kethrin fleet while revealing nothing about themselves. "What do you want?" the admiral asked. "Safe passage through this sector for our merchant vessels. Formal recognition of our territorial boundaries. Standard diplomatic relations between our governments. And if we refuse?" Captain Vasquez shrugged. "Then we will be forced to defend ourselves using whatever methods prove necessary. I should mention that this conversation is being broadcast to all ships in both fleets. Your crews and ours are listening to every word." The admiral felt trapped. His magnificent fleet meant nothing if the enemy could control his ships remotely. Worse, his own people were hearing about their technological helplessness. Military morale would collapse if the humans kept demonstrating their capabilities. "I need time to consult with my government," Zexler said. "Of course, we will maintain our current position while you consider our proposal. However, I should warn you that we have scheduled this diplomatic mission to last exactly 72 hours. After that time, our orders change significantly." The transmission ended. Admiral Zexler stared at the blank screen for long moments. Around him, his officers waited for orders. But what orders could he give? His fleet was powerful but useless against an enemy that could control their own systems. "Sir, what are your instructions?" Commander Veltar asked quietly. The admiral had no good answer. For the first time in his military career, he faced an opponent that he did not understand. The humans had turned his greatest strength into his greatest weakness. His massive fleet was now a liability rather than an advantage. "Open a channel to Fleet Command," Zexler said finally. "Priority Alpha, I need to speak with the High Council immediately." As his communications officer worked to establish the connection, the admiral wondered what other surprises the humans had prepared. If this was their idea of diplomacy, what would their version of war look like? The High Council's response came back 12 hours later. Admiral Zexler read the message 3 times before believing it. The Council refused to negotiate with humans. They ordered the fleet to destroy the human ships immediately and continue. With the original battle plan, Admiral Zexler called his senior commanders to an emergency meeting. The holographic display showed all 12 species represented in his fleet. Each commander looked confused and worried after hearing about the human demonstration. "The High Council believes the humans are bluffing," Zexler explained. "They think our cybersecurity failures were caused by lucky guessing rather than real technology." Sub-Admiral Vexron spoke first. "Admiral, my ship's computer core was completely mapped by the humans in less than 5 minutes. This was not luck." Captain Zillaneth clicked her mandibles nervously. "My hive ship detected intrusion attempts in over 40 different systems. They withdrew before causing damage, but they could have crippled us." "The Council's orders are clear," Zexler replied. "We attack at dawn tomorrow. All ships will advance on the human fleet simultaneously." The commanders exchanged worried looks but said nothing more. Military discipline demanded obedience even. When orders seemed foolish, that night Zexler could not sleep. He kept thinking about Captain Vasquez and her calm confidence. The humans had shown they could penetrate Kethrin defenses easily. What else could they do? The attack began at first light. 53,000 ships moved forward in the largest military formation ever assembled. The admiral watched from his bridge as the fleet advanced toward human positions. Long-range sensors showed the 2,000 human ships still waiting at the boundary. "Distance to target, 15 million kilometers and closing," reported the navigation officer. Zexler felt his stomach tighten with anxiety. Something was wrong. The humans should be moving by now. Their ships should be trying to escape or forming defensive positions. Instead, they floated motionless like they were waiting for something. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from the human diplomatic vessel," announced the communications officer. "Put it through." Captain Vasquez appeared on the main screen. Again, she looked tired but still maintained her professional demeanor. Admiral, I am disappointed that negotiations have failed. My government hoped for a peaceful solution. Your time is up, Captain. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to galactic law. I'm afraid that won't be possible. However, I want you to know that this outcome brings us no joy. What happens next was not our first choice. The transmission ended. Admiral Zexter stared at the screen with growing dread. The human woman had spoken like someone delivering a funeral speech rather than facing military defeat. Distance to target, 10 million kilometers, the navigation officer reported. Suddenly, warning alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. The tactical display showed red alerts appearing across the entire fleet. Commander Veltar frantically worked his control panel. Sir, we have multiple system failures throughout the fleet. Navigation computers are malfunctioning on over 3,000 ships. Zexter watched in horror as friendly ship markers began changing course without orders. Kethran destroyers turned toward their own support vessels. Vorthan cruisers aimed their weapons at allied ships. Zilani fighters launched from their carriers and started attacking everything nearby. What is happening? The Admiral demanded. The navigation systems have been compromised, sir. Ships are following false course instructions. Weapon systems are targeting friendly vessels instead of enemies. More alarms sounded. The display showed chaos spreading through the fleet like a disease. Ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. Weapon batteries fired randomly, hitting anything within range. Life support systems shut down on dozens of vessels, forcing emergency evacuations. Cut all computer connections, Zexter ordered. Switch to manual control immediately. We're trying, sir, but the override commands are being blocked. The computers won't accept manual input. The Admiral realized what was happening. The humans had activated whatever programs they had planted in the fleet's computer networks. Every ship that had been connected to the communication grid was now under enemy control. On the tactical display, he watched a full squadron of Kethran. Heavy cruisers fire their main guns at a Vorthan supply depot. The explosion lit up space for millions of kilometers. Hundreds of smaller vessels were caught in the blast and destroyed instantly. Sir, incoming transmission from the Eternal Storm, the communications officer reported with panic in his voice. The screen showed Sub-Admiral Vextran on his bridge. Smoke filled the air behind him, and several of his officers were working desperately at damaged control stations. Admiral, we have lost all computer control. My ship is firing on our own forces. I cannot stop it. Switch to manual targeting, Zexter replied. The manual systems have been locked out. The computers are running their own programs now. Before Vextran could say more, his ship's main plasma cannon fired directly into a group of Kethran escort vessels. The smaller ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The sub-admiral's expression showed pure horror at what his ship had just done. Across the fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Ships turned on their allies without warning. Weapon systems fired at random targets. Navigation computers sent vessels crashing into asteroids or flying directly into nearby stars. The magnificent Kethran fleet was destroying itself. Sir, life support is failing on decks 7 through 12, reported the engineering officer. Emergency power only. Zexter felt his ship shudder as something hit the hull. On the display, he saw that 2 of his own escort ships were firing at his command vessel. Their targeting computers had identified his flagship as an enemy target. Return fire, the Admiral ordered. Sir, our weapons are not responding to commands. Then get down to the gun batteries and fire them manually. The access corridors have been sealed, sir. Emergency blast doors activated throughout the ship. The Admiral realized his situation was hopeless. The humans had turned his entire fleet into a weapon against itself. Every advanced system that made Kethran ships superior was now being used to destroy them. He watched the tactical display as more ship markers winked out of existence. 300 years of military preparation was being undone in a matter of hours. The largest fleet in galactic history was committing suicide under human control. "Sir, the human ships are moving," reported the sensor officer on the display. Zexler saw the 2,000 human vessels finally advancing, but they were not attacking. Instead, they moved carefully through the chaos of the Kethran fleet like rescue workers entering a disaster zone. Human ships positioned themselves near damaged Kethran vessels and began transmitting. One by one, the malfunctioning alien ships stopped their random attacks. Navigation systems returned to normal. Weapon batteries powered down. Life support came back online. "We are receiving a transmission from the human flagship," the communications officer announced. Captain Vasquez appeared on the screen again. Around her, human officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. No panic or excitement despite the massive battle happening around them. "Admiral, we are prepared to restore control of your ships to your crews. However, this will require your unconditional surrender and agreement to our original terms." Zexler looked around his bridge. Half of his control stations were dark. Emergency lights flickered overhead. His magnificent command ship was powerless to defend itself or help the rest of the fleet on the tactical display. He could see that less than half of his ships were still operational. Thousands of vessels had been destroyed by their own weapons. Tens of thousands of crew members were dead or missing. The survivors were trapped in ships they could no longer control. "What guarantee do I have that you will honor surrender terms?" the Admiral asked. "You have our word as representatives of humanity. We take no pleasure in unnecessary destruction." Zexler thought about his options. He could refuse to surrender and watch the rest of his fleet destroy itself. Or he could accept human terms and hope they showed mercy. The choice was no choice at all. "I surrender," Admiral Zexler said quietly. "The Kethran fleet yields to human forces." Within minutes, control of his ship's systems returned. The lights came back on. Computer displays showed normal readings. His officers looked around in amazement as their equipment started working properly again, but the Admiral felt no relief. He had just learned that his entire civilization was defenseless against human technology. The war was over before it had really begun. Admiral Zexler sat in what used to be his private conference room. Now it served as a human research facility. 3 weeks had passed since the surrender, and nothing was as he had expected. The humans had not executed him or thrown him in a prison cell. Instead, they had given him comfortable quarters on a human research vessel and asked him thousands of questions. They wanted to know everything about Kethran technology, military tactics, and political systems. Dr. Sarah Chun sat across from him with a tablet computer in her hands. She was the human scientist assigned to study his species. Every day she asked new questions and recorded his answers with patient attention. "Tell me about your shield generators," Dr. Chun said. "How do they distribute energy across the protective field?" Zexler answered automatically. He had stopped resisting weeks ago. The humans were not torturing him or threatening his family. They simply wanted knowledge. In exchange, they treated him with respect and provided everything he needed. "Interesting," Dr. Chun made notes on her tablet. "Our simulations suggested that design, but we wanted confirmation from an expert. Why do you need to know these things?" Zexler asked. "You already defeated our entire fleet." "Because we want to improve the design. Your shield technology has some excellent features. We think we can combine it with our own systems to create something better than either of us had alone." The Admiral felt confused. "You want to improve our technology? But we are your enemies." Dr. Chun looked up from her tablet with a surprised expression. "Why would you be our enemies? We never wanted to fight you. The war happened because your government refused to negotiate. But you destroyed thousands of our ships, killed tens of thousands of our people. Actually, your own ships killed your people when their computers were compromised. We tried to minimize casualties by restoring control as quickly as possible. Our final count shows that 87% of your fleet survived the engagement." Zexler had not known the exact survival numbers. He assumed the losses were much higher. The humans had kept detailed records of every ship and crew member affected by the cyber attack. We have been studying the battle recordings, Dr. Chun continued. Your tactical formations were excellent. The coordination between different species was impressive. We learned a lot from watching your fleet movements. You studied us during the battle? Of course. Every engagement teaches us something new. We recorded everything your ships did and analyzed the data afterwards. Your people have some very innovative approaches to space warfare. The Admiral felt disturbed by this information. The humans had been treating the battle like a research project rather than a life-or-death struggle. They had been learning while his people were dying. Dr. Chun, may I ask you something? Certainly. What is your real purpose? Why do humans expand into space? The scientist put down her tablet and thought for a moment. We want to learn. Every new planet teaches us about different environments. Every new species shows us alternative ways of thinking and living. We expand because the universe is full of knowledge we have never seen before. But what about resources? Territory, political power? Those things matter, but they are not our primary goal. We can manufacture most resources we need. Territory is useful only if it contains something worth studying. Political power is just a tool for protecting our research. Zexler found this hard to believe. Every species he knew expanded for practical reasons. More planets meant more resources. Larger territory meant greater security. Political power meant the ability to control others. Then why did you build such an advanced military? He asked. Because other species keep trying to stop us from learning. The Kethran hegemony gathered the largest fleet in galactic history, specifically to prevent human expansion. We had to develop countermeasures. So you created the cyber weapons to fight us? Dr. Chun shook her head. We created those systems to study your computer networks. We wanted to understand how different species approach information processing. The fact that we could use them as weapons was just a side benefit. The Admiral felt his understanding of humanity shift again. They had not built weapons to conquer the galaxy. They had built research tools that happened to be incredibly effective. In combat, Dr. Chun, what will happen to my people now? That depends on your government. We have sent them our standard offer. Full diplomatic relations, technology sharing agreements, and joint research projects. If they accept, your species will benefit greatly from the partnership. And if they refuse, then we continue expanding around your territory until they change their minds. We have no interest in forcing cooperation, but we will not allow anyone to block our research. A soft chime announced an incoming message. Dr. Chung checked her tablet and smiled. Excellent news, Admiral. Your government has agreed to preliminary negotiations. They want to discuss the technology sharing provisions. Zexler felt surprised. The Kethran High Council had always been suspicious of alien influence. They must have been impressed by the demonstration of human capabilities. What kind of technology? Will you share? He asked. Everything that helps both species. Your shield systems combined with our computer technology. Your weapon designs improved with our material science. Your navigation methods enhanced with our sensor arrays. The door to the conference room opened and Captain Vasquez entered. She looked tired but pleased. Behind her came Sub-Admiral Thexrun and Captain Zillaneth. Both alien officers appeared healthy and well-treated. Admiral, Captain Vasquez said with a respectful nod, I wanted to inform you that the first joint research station will be established in the neutral zone between our territories. Your people and ours will work together on several projects. What kind of projects? Zexler asked. Advanced propulsion systems that combine human and Kethran technology. New communication networks that cannot be compromised by cyber attacks. Improved life support systems for long-range exploration missions. Sub-Admiral Thexrun spoke up. Captain, the human scientists have shown me preliminary designs for enhanced plasma weapons. The power output is triple what our current systems can achieve. And the Zilani Hive ship design has given us ideas for more efficient crew arrangements. Captain Vasquez replied. We think we can reduce living space requirements by 40% while improving crew comfort. Zexler listened to this conversation with growing amazement. 3 weeks ago, these beings had been enemies fighting a desperate battle. Now they were collaborating on research projects like old friends. "Admiral," Dr. Chun said, "we would like you to return to your people as our official liaison. Your knowledge of human capabilities will help prevent future misunderstandings. You want me to work for you?" "We want you to work with us. There is a difference." Captain Zillaneth clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Admiral, I have seen their research facilities. The humans have technology that could benefit all our species. They are not conquerors, they are collectors of knowledge." "But they destroyed our fleet," Zexler protested. "They disabled our fleet?" Sub-Admiral Lexren corrected. "Most of our ships and crews survived. The humans could have killed everyone if they wanted total victory." Captain Vasquez sat down at the conference table. "Admiral, we understand your concerns. Your people prepared for war because you thought we were a threat. We prepared for research because we thought you might have something to teach us. Both of us were partially right." "How so?" "You were right that humans are dangerous when threatened. We were right that the Kethran hegemony has valuable knowledge worth acquiring. The question now is whether we continue as enemies or become partners." Zexler thought about everything he had learned. The humans were not the primitive warriors his intelligence reports had described. They were something far more complex and potentially more dangerous. They fought not for conquest but for understanding. They won battles not through superior firepower but through superior knowledge. "If I agree to serve as liaison, what would my duties include?" "Help us understand Kethran culture and technology," Dr. Chun replied. "Help your people understand human motivations and methods. Serve as a bridge between our species so we can work together effectively." The Admiral looked around the room at the faces watching him. Human and alien officers sitting together as equals. Former enemies now discussing joint projects with genuine enthusiasm. Perhaps this was what humanity offered the galaxy. Not conquest or domination, but partnership in the pursuit of knowledge. It was a frightening prospect in its own way, but also full of possibilities he had never imagined. "I accept," Admiral Zexler said finally. "I will serve as liaison between our peoples," Captain Vasquez smiled. "Welcome to the team, Admiral. We have a lot of work to do." 6 months later, Admiral Zexler stood on the observation deck of the research station Unity 1. Through the massive transparent walls, he could see dozens of ships floating in the construction yards. These were not the vessels of any single species. They were something entirely new. The hulls combined Kethran metal alloys with human composite materials. Vorthan engine designs powered human navigation systems. Zilani crew compartments housed beings from 12 different worlds. Each ship represented months of collaboration between former enemies who had become eager partners. "Impressive sight, isn't it?" Captain Vasquez joined him at the observation window. She now held the rank of admiral in the newly formed joint Exploration Command. 6 months ago, I thought my career was over," Zexler replied. "Now I am designing ships that none of our species could have built alone. That's the whole point. When different kinds of intelligence work together, they create possibilities that none of them could imagine separately." Zexler nodded. He had learned this lesson many times over the past months. Human creativity combined with Kethran engineering precision. Vorthan mathematical abilities enhanced by human intuition. Zilani social organization improved by human adaptability. Every project produced results that surprised everyone involved. "Admiral, the morning briefing is about to begin," announced Dr. Chun over the communication system. "Please report to Conference Room Alpha." The two officers made their way through corridors filled with activity. Beings from every member species worked side by side. Language barriers had largely disappeared thanks to new translation systems that combined human computer science with alien linguistics knowledge. Conference Room Alpha buzzed with conversation in multiple languages. Around the central holographic Display, senior officers and scientists from all 12 species discussed the day's agenda. Zexler took his usual seat next to Sub-Admiral Vexrun, who now served as Chief Engineering Coordinator. "Good morning, everyone," Admiral Vasquez called the meeting to order. "Today we review progress on the Deep Space Exploration Program. Dr. Chun, please begin your report." The scientist activated the holographic display. It showed a three-dimensional map of local space with hundreds of star systems marked in different colors. "We have completed initial surveys of 67 systems in the target region. 43 contain planets suitable for research stations. 15 show signs of possible intelligent life." Excited murmurs filled the room. Captain Zillaneth leaned forward with obvious interest. "What kind of intelligent life?" "Unknown at this time. The signals are too faint for detailed analysis. We will need close-range investigation to determine their nature and technological level." Admiral Vasquez studied the display. "How long until the new exploration ships are ready?" "The first squadron will launch next week," reported Chief Engineer Corval, a Kethran specialist who now worked exclusively on hybrid technology projects. "We have installed the latest sensor arrays and communication systems. These ships can gather more information in 1 month than previous vessels could collect in a year." Zexler felt pride in that achievement. The new sensor systems combined the best features of human, Kethran, and Vorthan technology. They could detect energy signatures across 17 different spectrums simultaneously while maintaining complete stealth capability. "What about the diplomatic protocols?" asked Commander Veltar, who now served as Chief Cultural Advisor. "If we encounter new species, we need proper first contact procedures," Dr. Chun smiled. "We have learned much from our experience with the Kethran hegemony. Our new approach emphasizes patience, respect, and thorough research before making contact. Which means no more massive fleets appearing at territorial boundaries." Admiral Vasquez added with a slight grin. The room erupted in laughter. Even Zexler found himself chuckling at the memory of that first disastrous encounter. What had seemed like an overwhelming threat 6 months ago now felt like a valuable learning experience. "Speaking of fleets," Sub-Admiral Vexron said, "we should discuss the defense arrangements for the research stations." Admiral Vasquez nodded. "An important point. We are expanding into unknown regions where we might encounter hostile forces. Our exploration vessels need adequate protection." "The new hybrid warships are nearly complete," Chief Engineer Corval reported. "They incorporate defensive systems from all member species, plus several innovations that emerged from our joint research." Zexler had worked on those defensive innovations. The new ships carried Kethran shields enhanced with human adaptive algorithms. If one type of weapon penetrated the defenses, the system would automatically reconfigure to resist similar attacks. The technology made each ship stronger after every battle. "More importantly," Dr. Chun added, "we have developed non-lethal weapons that can disable enemy systems without destroying them. If we encounter hostile species, we can defend ourselves, while preserving opportunities for future diplomacy." Captain Zillaneth clicked her mandibles approvingly. "The Zilani colonies have been testing these systems. They work perfectly against pirate raiders. The attackers survive to be questioned and potentially recruited as allies." This was another human innovation that impressed Zexler. Instead of simply destroying enemies, they found ways to convert them into useful resources. Pirates became scouts. Hostile governments became research partners. Enemies became teachers who revealed new knowledge about the galaxy. "Dr. Chun, what is the status of the Cultural Integration Project?" Admiral Vasquez asked. "Proceeding ahead of schedule. We now have mixed crews on 87% of our vessels. Human adaptability helps other species work together more effectively. Meanwhile, alien perspectives give humans new ways to approach problems." Zexler knew this was true from personal experience. Working with humans had changed how he thought about military strategy, scientific research, and interspecies relations. He now approached problems by asking what knowledge could be gained rather than what threats could be eliminated. The education programs are also showing excellent results, Commander Veltar reported. Young beings from all member species are learning together at the joint academies. They think of themselves as explorers first and members of specific species. Second, Admiral Vasquez smiled at this news. That may be our greatest achievement. We are creating a generation that sees cooperation as normal rather than exceptional. The meeting continued for another hour as various department heads reported on their projects. New propulsion systems that could travel between stars in days rather than weeks. Communication networks that connected all member worlds in real time. Medical technologies that combined the best treatments from every species. After the formal briefing ended, Zexter remained in the conference room with Admiral Vasquez and Dr. Chun. Through the transparent walls, he could see the construction. Yards where new ships took shape under the guidance of mixed crews. Admiral, Dr. Chun said, we have received responses from the deep space signals. 3 of the unknown civilizations are willing to make contact. What are they like? Zexter asked. Preliminary analysis suggests they are all technologically advanced but isolated. They seem curious about our mixed species alliance. One of them specifically asked how we achieve cooperation between so many different kinds of beings. Admiral Vasquez nodded thoughtfully. Understandable question. Most species develop in isolation and view others as potential threats. The idea of voluntary cooperation must seem strange to them. Which gives us an opportunity, Zexter realized. We can teach them what we have learned about working together. Exactly, Dr. Chun agreed. Each new species we encounter becomes both a source of knowledge and a student of cooperation. The alliance grows stronger and more diverse with every contact. Zexter looked out at the construction yards again. 6 months ago, he had commanded a fleet designed to destroy human expansion. Now he helped design ships that would carry the Alliance's message of cooperation to distant stars. The transformation amazed him. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through superior firepower. They had transformed it through superior ideas. They had shown that former enemies could become willing partners, that different species could achieve more together than any of them could accomplish alone. Admiral, he said to Vasquez, what is the ultimate goal of all this expansion and exploration? She considered the question carefully. To learn everything the universe has to teach us. To bring together every kind of intelligence we can find. To create something greater than the sum of its parts. And if we encounter species that refuse to cooperate, then we learn from them anyway. Their resistance teaches us about different approaches to survival and development. Eventually, they usually become curious about our methods and decide to join voluntarily. Zexter understood now why the Kethran fleet had been doomed from the beginning. They had prepared to fight an enemy that did not want to destroy them. Instead, they had faced a species that wanted to transform them into something better than they had been alone. The fleet had been ready for war, but humanity had sent evolution instead.